Hi everyone, welcome to my very first online acting class. So today we're going to be covering things like building up characters, using our imaginations, and just making sure that we're still stimulating our imaginations and allowing ourselves to be in different scenarios and different spaces whilst we're still kind of confined to restricted areas such as being in our houses, in our kitchens, in our living rooms. So we're going to start with doing a few warm-ups to make sure that we're still projecting, we're still using our vocals, we're still feeling comfortable with taking on big characters in small spaces, okay? So we're going to start with some vowels. We're going to do A, E, I, O, U, and I want you to really over-exaggerate your mouth movements, okay? Again, just to make sure that we're fully warmed up, we're ready to tackle some of the dialogue we're going to use later. So here we go. Let's make sure as well that we are using our diaphragms and we're standing straight, we're nice and relaxed. Maybe roll your shoulders back a couple of times. Make sure that we're feeling okay. And let's go. A, E, I, O, U. And again. A, E, I, O, U. This time we're going to double it up, so we're going to go A, E, E, I, O, O, U, U. Keep that mouth moving loads. Let's make it look really over the top. Let's get those mouths moving and warmed up, okay? Here we go. A, E, E, I, O, O, U, U. And again. A, E, E, I, O, O, U, U. Good. We're going to move on to 4 now, so we're going to go A, E, 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 I, O, 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 U, 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 U. I want to feel that every single time you're saying a different letter, or any letter, it's really pushing from your diaphragm, okay? It should feel like a complete different movement every single time one of those sounds comes out of your mouth, okay? And I really want you to push yourself to be making lots of noise so that we already feel comfortable with making lots of noise in our kitchens, okay? Here we go. And A, E, 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 I, O, 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 U, 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 U. And again. A, E, 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 I, O, 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 U, 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 U. We should be able to do that in one breath, okay? If we really control our breath control, then we should be able to do it all in one breath. So let's try that again. Here we go. A, E, 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 I, O, 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 U, 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 U. One more time. A, E, 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 I, O, 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 U, 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 U. Good. So let's move on to doing some consonants now. So we're just going to go fa. Okay? We're going to do it for lots of different letters. We're going to start with a fa. And here we go. Fa. And let's do go. Go. And ha. And let's do ta. Let's do sa. And let's do ma. Ma. Lovely. If you want to carry on doing that, maybe just take a pause from the video, do lots of different sounds. You can do pretty much any letter you like. It's really good for, again, just using your mouth, getting it moving to lots of different shapes, and making sure that you're not going to stumble when you get to those different letters when we're doing like faster text later on. So, as I said earlier in the video, we're going to be looking quite a lot at building characters in this video. We're going to be looking at that because, as actors, our job is to duplicate human life, human behaviour, the way that we respond to things naturally. So, for instance, if I, as a director, tell someone to go on stage and raise their arm or put their arm around someone else, or to walk across the stage because it makes sense for the text, because we've decided that that's going to happen, that's not necessarily a naturalistic response. That's just, it's kind of robotic, yeah? So it's kind of telling actors to do something because it makes sense, because we've pre-thought that that's what should happen. Whereas what we're going to look at today is, I guess, our subconsciousness and our instinct and how we respond to different things, how we respond to dialogue, to images, and just your own thoughts and your own memories. in order to make performances more believable and more honest for audiences, which I'm sure you'll all agree is really important. And as we say in some of my acting classes, when we've gone back and looked at, for instance, Stanislavski techniques, we've kind of used this exercise of 1, 2, 3. So everyone kind of gets ready for a race, and after 3, you're going to race to the other side of the room. So we have 1, 2, and then we never say 3, because actually what we decided is that for actors there isn't a 3, because we already know what's coming. We know what's going to happen, and we know how everything's going to play out. There's no suspense, there's no team that we're cheering on, there's no kind of goal that we're trying to achieve, because we already know how that scene's going to end and how it's going to play out. So what we need to do is try and use our imaginations to spark a bit of realness and bring that sense of like suspense to a scene and to a whole piece, yeah? So that's what we're going to do today. So before we do that, I just want you to focus on this one line, and the line is, what do I want? It's not really about what I want. So I want you to imagine that you're a character saying that. What do I want? It's not about what I want, okay? So just think about that line in your head a couple of times, and I just want you to say it out loud. What do I want? It's not about what I want. Okay, so just keep saying it a couple of times. And as you say it, don't think about why you're saying it. Don't think about the circumstance. Don't overthink anything. Just say it. Okay? How would you naturally say that line? And once you've done that, I want you to then think about how that sounds. How does that line sound? How are you saying it? Would you say it differently if you were on stage? And then start to think about the circumstance when you might have said something like that before. What do I want? It's not really about what I want. Okay, just think about that line a couple of times. And already what you're doing is you're just naturally saying a line. And you might think that I'm not performing, that's not me performing, but that is performing, okay? Performing is just saying words, making them believable and thinking about how you would say them, okay? In the context of, well, many different contexts, yeah? You might have lots of different scenarios going through your head now the more that you say it, okay? But what's really important is that we started off by just saying that line, how we would naturally say it, okay? And that's something we're going to toy with a little bit throughout this session, okay? What we're going to do now is build our own characters from our imaginations. So I would just like you all to close your eyes if you can, if you feel comfortable, and just take a few seconds to just focus on your breathing, okay? So this is going to be really good as well for the moment, for just letting ourselves be in this space and allow all thoughts to just leave our brains, because I'm sure there's a lot going on in our minds at the minute, and it's really good to just focus on what we're doing, okay? So let's just breathe in for 4 and out for 4 at the moment. So let's breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to breathe in for 4 and out for 8, okay? So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then just take a couple of seconds to just really focus on your own breathing, okay? To whatever time scale you like. Try and keep it nice and slow paced, just like we have been doing though, okay? So just keep breathing in, breathing out, just focus on that, don't focus on anything else. Let everything just leave your mind completely, okay? And as you're doing that, and I want you to imagine that you are somewhere else, okay? And it can be absolutely anywhere. You could be in a classroom, you could be in a shop, you could be in a restaurant, at a park, anywhere. But just imagine that you are somewhere completely different to where you are at the moment. Maybe you're at the hospital, at a police station, at a pet shop, at the beach. There's no right or wrong answer right now. And just start to think about whether you are on your own, or with someone else, or in a group. Think about what you can hear. What's really close to you? What can you hear that's close? And what's really far away? Okay, what can you hear in the distance? Can you hear something, maybe if you're inside, can you hear something just outside? Is it just outside the door, out the window? What's in the room with you? And start to think about what you can smell as well. What different things can you smell? How warm or cold is it? And what can you feel around you? If you were to put your arms out, what would you feel? What are you wearing? Do you feel comfortable in what you're wearing? Is it light? Is it dark? What time of day is it? And then once you've got all these sensory things, I want you to start thinking about why you are there. Why are you in this place? And maybe as we get to this point, you're starting to see a bit of a different character. You're not yourself anymore. You're not imagining you at home. You're imagining this character in a different space, either on their own or with lots of different people. Who are these people to this character, okay? Again, there's no right or wrong answer, just let your imagination go absolutely wild, okay? So thinking about where you are, what you can see, what you can smell, what you can touch, what you can hear. And then really start to think about why you are there. What are you doing? What's your objective, okay? Why are you in this space? Again, this might be a point where you want to pause the video and just really take time to imagine this space. Take time to maybe think about who you are, why you're there, what's going on around you, and really start to get into this character that you're starting to build. What I'd like you to do now is to imagine that for some reason you need to leave this space. Okay? What has triggered this? Has someone said something? Have you remembered something? Were you overwhelmed? Are you happy that you've left? Just start to think about why you need to leave this space. Why do you need to go somewhere different? What's the reason? What's triggered it? And as you're leaving this space, start to think about where you are now. Where are you going? Where are you heading? Are you still walking? Have you found somewhere safe to stop? Where are you? Okay? So your journey's already kind of begun as a character. You've been on a bit of a journey already. You've started somewhere, you're either on your own, you're with people, you've really imagined the space around you, and now for some reason you've had to go somewhere completely different, okay? And just think about why that is. And again, start to imagine this space now. Where are you? And then the next thing I want you to imagine is that you've received a text message. And this text message says, I really need to speak to you. I really need to speak to you. And again, same questions. Who is this? Who's texted you? Why have they messaged you? What has happened? Again, there's no right or wrong answer. The first thing that comes to your head is probably the best thing to go with. Just roll with it, okay? Who's texted you? Why have they texted you? What has been happening? And just think about that whole journey that this character's now been on. And what happens next is that without hesitation, your character phones this person. Okay, you get out your phone and you have a phone conversation with them. Start to think about the things that you might be saying to them. And whenever you feel ready, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to start to improvise a bit of dialogue, okay? So maybe you want to get your phone out, maybe it'll help you. Maybe you just want to start thinking about things that you want to say to this person, but just improvise a short sequence, a short scene of what you're going to say to this person on the phone. You might want to take this time to record this dialogue as well, so that you can refer to it later on, or just remembering it would be enough as well, okay? So you're just improvising what this phone conversation is going to be. And remember, it's from the perspective of your character. You're not yourself anymore, you're a different character. So once you've done this, what I'd like you to do is to just take a breath, relax, and take a step away from the character and just look at this little sequence, this scene that you've just created. And I want you to start thinking about how this other character has responded, okay? So maybe you've written some of this scene down, maybe you've recorded it, maybe you've just remembered it. But now what I'd like to do is to take this dialogue and start to fill in the gaps, because you've probably not really thought about what the other person has said or what they're feeling. You've maybe thought here and there a couple of words or a couple of responses, but what would be good is for you to have as much of a solid idea of what this other character feels and is saying to slot in with the dialogue that you've already created. Okay, so just take a couple of minutes to just go over this scene, make a little sequence, and yeah, fill in those gaps, okay? So then you've got a naturalistic scene that can run side by side if you were to have two actors, okay? And then once you've done that, what I'd like you to do is to play the scene out again with just you having your own dialogue as your character, but think about how your performance is already changing, because you already know, what this other character is saying, you know what they're going through, you know how they're responding to you. You're not just solely thinking about one conversation from one end of the phone, okay? How does it change the way that you deliver the text that you just created? So what you should have now is a short scene of you having a conversation with another character on the phone about whatever's happened in the build-up to this scene. And that'll feel like it's coming from a real genuine place because of the character building that we did before, because of you going through that journey emotionally and knowing where you are and when this is happening, okay? What I'd like to do now is to start thinking about what this character would do after. And in this instance, I want it to be that they phone someone else, okay? So this conversation is ended, and you're now ringing someone else to talk about what's happened, to talk about the conversation you've had on the phone. So you're making a brand new scene about responding to what's happened. So maybe you're talking to a different friend, maybe you've, or maybe it's someone professional, maybe it's the police, maybe it's a counsellor, maybe it's a family member, or maybe you just pick up the phone to talk to yourself and let out some thoughts, okay? So I just want you to make a brand new scene to follow this one, and I want you to just think about how different this is, how different this conversation is, what you're saying, how's your body language changed, how is the tone changing, okay? And the idea is that hopefully you'll have two very contrasting scenes that you can play out, okay? And also when you're doing this, I want you to not really think about performing necessarily the dialogue in the scene and thinking about the dialogue. I want you to give yourself another task, okay? So maybe when you're performing this scene, you're putting some shopping away. Maybe you're looking for something. Maybe you're doing the washing up. Maybe you're taking your dog for a walk. Maybe you are looking for someone, okay? So give yourself a new task to layer on top of this dialogue so that we're not necessarily just focusing on the dialogue. And see if it just makes the dialogue feel more natural, okay? So, because your mind's going to be in two different places, you're not just going to be concentrating on the words that you're saying. Okay, so once you've done that, you should now have two different sequences or scenes of you having phone conversations. So the first one is with the person who's texted you and said they need to talk to you. The second one is someone else responding to whatever's happened in a completely different way. And what I'd like you to do now is to perform these pieces, but without any dialogue. Okay, so just go through the motions of what's in the dialogue, but just with physicality and with gestures, okay? And it doesn't have to necessarily be abstract, it can still be really naturalistic. So it might be that you pick up the phone and you're just walking around and you think about some of the text that you're saying in this piece, and then maybe you start to feel a little bit stressed, a little bit tense. Maybe then you start to do some of the things we talked about before, like doing a different task. Maybe you're looking for something else. Your mind is completely drifted. Maybe then you think about the next bit of dialogue that comes up. Maybe it's something that's quite shocking and you just take a second to come off the phone, take a breath. They're still talking, but you're not really listening to them. And maybe you just take a second to crouch on the floor and rethink about things. And then maybe you've realised, oh, okay, the phone's still on. I'm going to pick it up again. I'm going to walk around. Okay, I'm a bit more stressed, so I'm just going to walk around. I'm thinking about what to do. And then maybe I've hung up. I'm taking a breath. And then we go into the next conversation, and how does that change? Okay, so we're just thinking about your physicality. We're not thinking about how you say the words or how that moves the scene along. We're just thinking about where you are. So let's imagine that scene again. Let's imagine all those senses around you, and just physically, what are you doing throughout those scenes? So if you're still with me, then thank you for sticking around, and we should be coming towards the end of this piece now. So we've got a bit of a journey for this character to go on. We know how they're moving around the space physically without necessarily being driven by dialogue. And what I'd like to do now is to add the dialogue back into both scenes and record yourself performing them, and just think about whether these different stages that we've taken have changed the way that you perform this. Does it feel more natural? Maybe you've recorded each stage and you want to compare how different you're performing them each time. And what would be really good is if you can record this end version of your sequence, and yeah, just think about all those different things. And maybe on camera, if you're in my class, maybe you want to describe how your character and how this piece is developed, and whether you think it's naturalistic, maybe you think it's still a bit abstract, maybe you think there's some work you could still do, maybe some of the exercises that you found particularly useful, maybe ones that you struggled with. Yeah, so it'd be really great to hear those kind of things and that kind of feedback from you. So we're now moving on to the final exercise of today's class. We're going to be looking at a piece of text. So it should hopefully come up on the screen in a second if I've edited this well. So you'll see the monologue or the piece of text come up on the screen, and the monologue reads, "Oh, spell death for me so I can stare at it, examine it and try to get around it. I won't let it block my view to what's on the other side. I know what's on the other side, something beyond words, something beyond feelings, something more important, something more understood. I see it, I know it, I sense it." And what I want you to do is I want you to play around with that monologue and perform it in different ways. So it's quite open. You could interpret it in many different ways. It's not necessarily a set emotion or a set character, which is really good for playing around and putting your own character and your own spin on it. And what I'm going to do is, in this video, when I finish this explanation, there's going to be different images. And I want you to look at these images and think about what's going on, who's in the picture, are you any of these people in this picture? Are you, like, is your character one of these people? Or is this what you can see? What's the emotion? What's the feeling? What's the kind of intensity? What's going on in these pictures? Yeah, just really pick them apart. And then I want you to perform this monologue with the feeling or the emotion or the story of these pictures. Okay, so each picture is going to be a different version of this monologue. And what would be really good, again, would be for you to record the different versions and maybe explain a little bit about why you've made these decisions and what's kind of inspired you from these pictures. You don't have to do all the pictures, there's going to be quite a few, but I would say pick at least 3 to 5 to play around with. Yeah, so it'd be really good to see your responses, and maybe for you guys to just watch the video back and see how you're performing it differently. When you're performing these monologues, what I want you to do is to think about a couple of these little hints. They're very basic, but they're very helpful when working with text. So try reading it out loud, and every time you get to a bit of punctuation, so whether it's a full stop, a colon, a semicolon, a comma, I want you to take a 5-second breath, okay? So it really breaks up the dialogue. It lets you see how the writer intended for it to be read and for it to be interpreted. And it just might give you something new. You might have a new feeling about the text. It might make a certain phrase or word stand out to you. It might just be a complete different shift. So just do that a couple of times and it will just allow you to really digest the dialogue and how it kind of was intended to be spoken. Maybe again, similar to before, try doing a different activity. So whether that's jumping on the spot and saying the whole monologue, whether it's walking around the room at a fast pace or having a light jog, jogging on the spot, doing star jumps, anything to take you away from thinking about the dialogue. You're just going to be saying it. And again, it's really going to take you back to saying that dialogue naturalistically, and not overthinking it, not overthinking this whole character scenario that I've given you, okay? It's really important that we start off by just saying dialogue, how we say it as humans. And if that's not working for you, then maybe you want to go back to the kind of tasks where you're still acting it out, but you're putting the dishes away, you're doing some cleaning, you're taking the dog for a walk, you're looking for something. That might help you a little bit more as well if the just generic kind of jumping, running on the spot isn't helping you. And finally, what I want you to do is to think about your character objectives, okay? So every time you're doing one of these monologues or playing around with this text, what are you deciding your objectives are? What does the character want? What does the character need? Okay? And maybe also, what are they scared of? What do they fear? It'd be really good to start thinking about that. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing your responses to this, to seeing how the pieces develop, and to seeing your performances, but also don't forget to include your reasons for some of the decisions that you've made, talk about your characters, talk about the things that you've imagined and explored, what's been helpful, how you found the exercises, how you think the pieces have developed through the stages of the exercises. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to seeing what you guys do with the material. And yeah, hopefully I'll be back again next week with some more sort of acting techniques, some warm-ups and a couple of exercises for you to be getting on with as well. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to seeing what you guys do. So thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Thanks guys.